Not everyone has fully working hands, and in my case, my dad's hands are starting to not work as well. Last winter, my dad was diagnosed with a disease called ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. ALS is a progressive, fatal neurodegenerative disease. What that means is that you'll slowly start losing motor neuron function throughout your body. There are some people where it starts in their feet, there are some people where it starts in your hands, there are some people where it starts in your mouth. It changes a little bit for everyone. And my dad's, it's starting in his hands. So he is starting to lose the ability to use his muscles in his hands. This is bad for a lot of reasons, as you can imagine. But here at GridForge in Motive Engineering, we have so many tools at our disposal that it would feel wrong to not do something about it. As my dad's disease is progressing, Isaac and I are always thinking of ways that we can help him. We have CNC machines, 3D printers, 3D scanners, all sorts of additive and traditional manufacturing capabilities. And so we've been working on helping him in ways that we can. And he came home about 6 months ago from his physical therapist with a PVC pipe with a stylus glued into it. It allows users to basically hold on to this PVC pipe, and then the stylus sticks out from inside the PVC pipe, and allows you to, with limited finger mobility, but still the ability to grip a little bit, it allows him to peck away at a keyboard, kind of like finger typing, as well as navigate an iPad, because he can't extend his fingers well. This tool was fairly crude and didn't really have the full functionality of what it could be. And when I saw it, I immediately thought, oh my gosh, we can make that better, and I bet we can produce them at a rate that makes it so we can provide them for a lot of people. If you want to imagine what it's like to have ALS in your hands, just think about the last time you were out in a really, really cold environment. And you can imagine when you're really cold and you're trying to tie a shoe, for example, it's really hard to have the fine motor function of what you're actually trying to do. And so that's exactly what it's like. Imagine your hands are really, really cold and it's really hard to move them. So I looked at the initial item and thought, man, what are the ways that we could improve this? And I thought, well, if there was a strap that went around it, that would make it so that even if you didn't have much grip strength, you could still just move your arm around and type and it would stay in place. I also thought it should be more ergonomic. Holding onto a PVC pipe, although, in science textbooks, when you look at the hand gripping something, it's always gripping just a round cylindrical object, it's not actually ideal for what you'd want. So I wanted to go about developing a shape that was really ergonomic and that would mean that as you squeezed your hand, just how the hand naturally falls would apply equal pressure everywhere on the thing that you're holding. Imagine something that's like perfectly molded for your hand. You can feel that like when you grip it, it requires so little actual grip force to feel like you have really good authority over how you're moving it. I am by no means an expert in biology or how the hand works and stuff like that, so I had to dive down some rabbit holes and look at some research papers on how ergonomic things are designed, especially for the hands. I found a few really interesting studies. One of them was developing an ergonomic handle for something like the Da Vinci robots that they use in the medical field that allows really precise control over small objects during surgeries. So this was the main research paper I used when looking through all this, and you can see the title of this paper. So I thought this was, during when I was looking into this stuff, I thought that this was probably a great place to start because I knew I wanted to use additive manufacturing to make these because it makes them cheaper and we can do kind of complex geometry without going crazy on the cost of everything. But anyways, that's besides the point. So the point that I'll kind of snip out and mention here is this result shows that both additive manufacturing and the application of ergonomic criterion provided an efficient method for custom designs in manufacture of this type, specialized tool with potential application in other sectors. Mr. Alfonso, I am your other sector. So thank you very much for publishing this. One thing they measured was a lot of people's hands. So as they mentioned, and they got to what is the end, the tool they developed for this project. So you can see that tool here. And this section is what I was interested in. Obviously, they're holding it a little differently. So this was a medium point. You can see here they talked about the geometry of the handle as it relates to the angle that you're holding it at. Also, how the fingers fall and end up contacting this bulge that's come out here. As we go in here, you can see how they measured some of this stuff. So we have the hand length, the hand length is measured, palm length measured, stuff like that, going into how they were getting to the results. And then over here we have the relationship between hand length and all the others. So these are showing how the design is changing depending on the palm length measurement. And you can see as we go down here, this you basically get more of a bulge on the bottom of this tool, kind of by where the pinky and the ring finger are going to grasp it. This wasn't quite as important in our design just because the angle isn't quite the same. And so the hand falls differently than it does in their design. But that was the summary of this. And what this gave me was some really good data, as we saw, on the measurements that they got. And that was where this was the most powerful. This was a really solid base and gave me a really good set of shapes to work from. And you may be asking, why improve them? If it works and it's simple, then just why doesn't it just work? Well, obviously there's the personal connection. And so I just want to make the best possible thing for my dad to use. But in addition to that, his ALS diagnosis and the journey that we're going through with this has started to connect me with more people. And if we're going to be doing that, we might as well go through and make this as good as it can possibly be for those people. So I just threw these all in Bamboo Slicer just so you guys can get a look and see what the basics are between the design changes of all the versions. On the far left is version 1, and then as we move to the right is version 5, which is the furthest development we've currently done. You can see as we rotate around here that the angles and where the stylus comes out of changes. I've grabbed a few left-hand and a few right-hand examples for this, so they just flip-flop a little bit left and right. But you might be able to still see some of the slight angle changes that we did over time. Another thing we focused on was the endpoints on the top and bottom, and also the thickness of the walls, which all contributed to how the thing felt in the hand. And you can see the third version was the thickest, and that actually didn't feel right and was hard to put the strap through and all sorts of stuff, so that didn't really work perfectly. And by the fifth, hopefully you can see that's also really kind of the simplest design and shape. As I was, adding the lip for the stylus to go in and fillets on the edges and stuff like that, making it more complicated didn't actually make it any better. So what we ended with, I think, is the most simple of all 5 designs. Now, jumping into SolidWorks, we can just see the basics of how this was made. So this used a loft with several different guide curves, and that allows us to control the shape as the profile is brought from one point to the second point. This also allows us to measure and look at different points along. And we can actually look at the cross section throughout this and measure the perimeters of each of these, what eventually turns into a spline shape or an ellipse. And from there, we can relate that back to the research paper about how they sized things for the different measures of fingers. So the main changes that we were making between all 5 versions were to that initial loft to adjust the guide curves and how the profile changes down its length, as well as that hole that we have on the side, the angle that's holes at, the depth of the hole, stuff like that, because that connects back to how the strap is mounted as well as the angle at which the stylus comes out. So I don't have a physical copy of version 1 next to me because it wasn't that good. We needed to make some improvements. But I do have version 2, which is sitting right here. This uses some styluses I bought online, as well as the shape that we ended up with. This was for, you can see I marked it, this is right palm, so your right palm sits in there. This had a few issues still. For example, the stylus is pointing a little too towards the thumb. It needs to be aimed a little more to the right if I'm holding it in my right hand. In addition to that, I added a little lip here for the stylus to go in, and that touches your finger in a weird way, and if I was using this for like an hour, it would probably be uncomfortable. I also needed to add some sort of fillets or roundovers on any edges. So then we have version 3 here, and this one's a lot better. This is again for the right palm, and I went a little too far in the wrong direction, and the stylus was pointing now a little bit too far towards the pinky, as well as I wasn't quite sure how we were going to mount the strap yet. More design considerations and more 3D printing later with new filament, because we've been working on this for a while, and I ended up with this version 4, and this is perfect. It fits in the hand really, really well. Again, I've marked it for the right hand. There are obviously, because they're ergonomic, there's a right hand version and a left hand version. In addition to that, I tried to make it more obvious by saying, your thumb goes here, so I printed thumb in right there to know which side the thumb goes on, because I don't want someone to use it for the wrong hand and then think to themselves, oh, why doesn't it feel right? But the important part of this design that I like a lot, if I remove this stylus quickly, is how comfortable they are in the hand. And I tested them out on a few people. Obviously myself, that's how I was holding them originally. I had my girlfriend try them, and her hands are a little bit smaller. I had my dad try them, his hands are a little bit bigger, and it seems to be a good medium zone of hand sizes. The strap, when it's connected, also holds the stylus up and in place. This is due to how the center is designed. The strap pulls up on the center cylinder in such a way that it actually pulls the stylus up. Not that far, but it pulls it up so that if you have super low grip strength and mobility and aren't able to grip this thing almost at all, it won't just droop down on you. But all the angles are really important. You can see in this that I've set this angle extremely precisely, both locating it this way and up and down here. If you know anyone that could use this, we sell them on our website. We have the cost as low as we can right now, which is $20 each. But if you're a physical therapist or a provider and need a bunch of them, just reach out to us. I'm sure we can figure something out. And if you're just a person and funds are limited and you're sick, also just send us a message. I'll send you one. I will say these are not perfect for everyone. I've connected with a few other people in the ALS community and they don't work for everyone. Some people, their hands just don't quite fit. They don't quite have the mobility in their elbows to make this a useful tool. So it's definitely not a perfect option. But for my dad, it works, and obviously that's what's most important to me. And if it can help anyone else, then that's what we're happy with. So anyways, I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of this video. This obviously is a meaningful project to both me and Isaac. So I appreciate you staying. And if you have any questions, post them up in the comments. If you've seen something about this and you say, oh my gosh, why didn't they think of this? Tell me. I want to make these better for everyone. But thanks so much for checking this out, and we will see you in the next one.